to the account name. So just click on it and go down here to share to your teacher share. May as well share it with me, J.G. Thompson, Thompson.
Oh, we need to create an account first.
Yeah, got to create an account.
Okay.
Once you're done with that, just click back on the purple text up at the top, coding bat. We actually want to do Python problems. They're the same problems. You're just supposed to either solve them in Python or Java.
Where's the share?
There's prefs right here next to the account name. I'm sorry, I can't make it bigger. Yeah, right. Oh, come on. Right there. Click that and scroll down and type J.G. Thompson there in this teacher share thing. Then click share, then it wipes out that field, but it is shared with me. And you can come back up and click on coding back, code practice, and choose Python, and we're good to go. So if you get the hang of this and just want to start working ahead of where I'm working, that's totally cool. You don't have to sit there and wait for me, to wander around and help students and stuff like that. Because these will be easier for some people than others. Python help, Python example code, Python string, Python list, Python if boolean. Yeah, you can go down here and eyeball some of this stuff. I expect y'all to have 100% of these problems done over the summer. I'll check in the fall. That's supposed to generate a big laugh. Okay, so the first problem, sleep in. And we want to do it in Python, not Java. So Python warm up, sleep in. Now the way these are worded is sometimes a little bit cryptic, but we'll figure it out. They give you a function definition right here. They give you the name of the function and they give you some parameters. Then up in the problem description, they tell you what those parameters do. There's two of them. There's one called weekday and there's one called vacation. The parameter weekday is set to true if it is a weekday. The parameter vacation is set to true if we are on vacation. That implies that if it's false, it's not a weekday, it's a weekend. And if vacation is false, then we're not on vacation. We get to sleep in if it's not a weekday, or we're on vacation. Return true if we sleep in. Okay, so I'm going to type something that's not going to be the correct answer, but it'll be a start. Let's say that we think that the only time we get to sleep in is during vacation. So I'm going to come down here. If vacation equals true, colon, return true. And then down here at the bottom, I'm just going to assume that, well, if that didn't happen, I'm going to return a false. I'm not going to even word it as an else, because if it's returning out of there, then the only other possible thing to do is to do what's down here, if it doesn't. If I click go, over here, the server runs this function, testing it 4 different ways. If you go and look, it shows you the results of their tests. They say that if they call sleep in with the values false, false, it's supposed to return a true. But my code returned a false. It would be up to me to go and figure out what's wrong with that. So then you would just have to match it up. Okay, false, false. That means that, well, weekday was false. It was a weekend. Vacation was false. It was a weekend, but not a vacation. Okay, I want to return true if it's a weekend, and you think it through. But really, I think what we can do is say safely that if it's a vacation, we can return true. If weekday is equal to false, return true. Lastly, return false. And if you wanted to, you could tidy it up with elifs and elses and stuff like that, but you don't need to. If you go and click on Show Solution, you'll see a much more terse way of solving it. Terse meaning, the fewest words as possible. But I'm going to click Go, make sure that this works. All correct. Okay, one thing I want to note about statements that say if something equals true. Whenever you see that kind of thing, you can always just remove the equals true part. Like that. I kind of like seeing the equals true. It makes it jump out, but you could just do that. If vacation. Also, if you see something is equal to false, you could do this. Instead of saying equals false, you can do if not weekday. That's the same thing as comparing it to false. So if it's vacation, return true. If it's not a weekday, meaning it's a weekend, return true. Okay, the last point I want to make about this is that if you have several if statements that do the same thing, don't type this, but like if you do this, A is equal to 1, then X is equal to 3, and then you have if BB is equal to 2, X is equal to 3. If CC is equal to 4, 5, X is equal to 3. If you have something like that, you can combine all of these with OR statements, because if AA is equal to 1, you're going to do something. Or if a BB is equal to something, you're going to do the same thing. Or so we could reword this as if AA is equal to 1, or BB is equal to 2, or CC is equal to 5, then X is equal to 3. That case, that condition holds true here because we have two if statements doing the same thing. Both of them return true. So we could have worded it like this. I'm just going to put an if a comment down here at the bottom. If vacation, not verification, if vacation or not weekday, return true. That would work. And then if we were down for the ultimate in terseness, we could do this. Return vacation or not weekday. What this means is evaluate this Boolean expression and then just return it. So one line of code could conceivably replace all 5 of my lines of code here. Now when I program, my goal is not to make code as terse, and short as possible. So I don't mind wording it like this. This is a good compromise. This is kind of like the minimum. Once you get to the point where that makes sense, yeah, do that kind of stuff. All right, anybody getting syntax errors? Is it okay if I click next? All right, just a sec. All right, I'm going to go to the next one. Monkey trouble. We have 2 monkeys, A and B. These parameters, A smile and B smile, indicate if each is smiling. And we are in trouble if both are smiling. They have something up their sleeves. Well, monkeys don't have sleeves. Or if neither of them is smiling. Return true if we are in trouble. So we want to return true if they are both smiling, meaning that they are both set to true, or if neither is smiling. Return true if we are in trouble. Write an if statement that checks to see if they are both smiling. In other words, both A smile and B smile are true. If A underscore smile is equal to true. Now it's not an or, because if they're both smiling, we have to use an and. It doesn't count if only one is smiling. So if A smile is equal to true and, whoops, get back up here, and B smile is equal to true, return true. And as always, I'm going to go and put a kind of a catch-all return false here at the end. All right, that solves part of the problem. I'm going to go ahead and click go just to see how many choices I got answered correctly here. Well, you know, it's saying I got 3 out of 4. But really, I only did this one if both are smiling. How do we check to see if neither of them are smiling? Are we going to check true? I wouldn't. I would check for false. If A smile is equal to false and B smile is equal to false. If A smile is equal to false and B smile is equal to false, return true. That should solve it. So, you know, I could do the same thing that I did the previous time, which is to take out the equals trues, and if something is equal to false, make it say, if not A smile instead. But instead, look at this statement, and then look at this statement, and without going and checking the solution, see if you can think of a way to do this in one line of code rather than 2. And not just by chaining them with an OR. You know, we could chain them with an OR because we had, you know, 2 if statements that did the same thing. They both returned true. What is true about this one? A smile is equal to true and B smile is equal to true. Comparing that to this one. A smile is equal to false and B smile is equal to false. In either case, what is A smile compared to B smile? I'm not sure if I'm fishing in a way that makes sense, but if they're both true, then what does that imply about A smile and B smile? That they are that they're equal to each other, exactly. And if they're false, both false, again they are equal to each other. So this could be shortened to a statement like this. If, I'm going to just put it as a comment. If A smile is equal to B smile, colon, return true. And again, I could shorten that one further. If my goal was minimal code, I could do return A smile is equal to B smile. And I haven't been coding like this in the class, but if you put parentheses around this, maybe it makes it clear what it's doing. This is an expression that returns either true or false, right? If A smile is equal to B smile, that is either true or false. If that's true, we want to return true. Just like that. So we could do it just like that. And if we went and we looked at the solutions, they'd show us something to that effect. All right, we all good? Or all righty, the next problem, sum of double. I kind of want y'all to think this one through for yourself. I'm going to give y'all like a couple of minutes on this one. Given 2 int values, return their sum. So they're passing in A and B. We're supposed to return A plus B. Unless the 2 values are the same, then return double their sum. Now the way they word these are sometimes backwards. You would have to handle this case before you could handle this case. What I mean is there is no unless statement in Python. All you have are if statements. So you would need to check this case first. The 2 values are the same, then return double the sum. As always, there's about 5 million ways we could word this. Here's the way that I've been telling y'all as I wandered around. If A is equal to B, that means that the values are the same. Then return 2 times, parentheses, A plus B. That's one way. I'm going to show you all a different way, just to make it worth your while for those who've already seen it. I'm going to calculate the sum first, but I'm not going to use the word sum because that's the name of a function. Total is equal to a plus b. And then I'm going to use an if statement. If a is equal to b, then return 2 times the total. Else just return the total. Does that make sense? Just calculate the sum first and then do your if statement. Either way works. So if we were going to do it the other way, I'll go ahead and finish typing it out. If a is equal to b, colon, return 2 times a plus b. The most common mistake I saw is that people were leaving off the parentheses. And that doesn't work because of the order of precedence. It would return 2 times a. It would double a, but not b. Otherwise, you just return a plus b. I'm sure if we went and looked at the solution or the hints, they'd give us a way short version. Alrighty. We could just go on to the next warm-up, but I think it'd be kind of interesting. Well, there's warm-up too, but let's skip that one. Let's look at string 1. So what I did is I just clicked on the word Python up at the top and went to the next section, string 1. Basic string problems. We use plus to combine strings. We use len to get the length, and we use slicing to get the substring. So I'm going to go into hello name in the string 1 problems. Okay, given a string name, return a greeting in the form of hello Bob, exclamation mark. So we're not going to print it. There's no reason to print. It's just supposed to return that. So if they call hello with Bob, we're supposed to return hello Bob, exclamation mark. If they pass in Alice, we're supposed to return hello Alice. This one's easy because it can be done in a single line of code. Or we could break it up into 2. So greetings is equal to the word hello followed by a space plus that variable name plus name plus an exclamation mark. And then return greetings. If we left the space off, it wouldn't work. If we left the exclamation mark, they'd count it off. I'm going to scroll over and see their hint. Okay. And we could have shortened this by, instead of doing greetings equals, just make it return hello plus name plus exclamation mark. Go ahead and skip to the next one when you get that one right. Alright, so the next one, make ABBA. Given 2 strings, A and B, we put them together so that if they pass in hi bye, we return hi bye bye hi. If they pass in what up, we're going to return what up what. Man, if that ever became a fad amongst teenagers or something to talk like that, that'd be a drag. Okay, so we just need to return or to make a string that's equal to the words put together and then the words put together in opposite order. As always, there's more than one way to do this. I like breaking it up into a calculation and then a return, actually. So S is equal to A plus B. That would take care of what? Up. Plus up what is B plus A. And then let's return S. So making tags, if they give us an I and a yay, this is in the form of like XML tags or HTML tags, where that's the tag, that's the content of the tag, and then you have a closing tag, which means it's another tag but with a slash after it. So just like in, I'm going to type something, this absolutely, if you were going to make something, don't type this, bold in HTML, you could do it with a strong tag. You say, I want everything after this to be bold, and then you type a word in, and then, so this means, okay, start making everything bold, stop making everything bold. If you want to make a whole paragraph of text, you do a P, stands for paragraph, then you put some text, this is my resume, and then you do /P to indicate that that's the end. Okay, that's your HTML lesson for this semester. Let's go and make a tag. A tag consists of the angle braces. So, S is equal to, I'm going to use, I don't know. They like single quotes. I like double quotes. There, an angle brace plus the tag plus a close angle brace. Well, that took part of that. We still got a long way to go. Now we need to add the word yay onto it, or hello, or whatever our word is. Wait, come back. So, and I'm putting way more spaces than you need to do just to make it easy to see. Plus word. Now word doesn't have quotes in it because we want to print out whatever's passed in. And then we're going to do the same thing, except it needs to have a slash after the angle brace. I could just copy all that stuff, save some time. Plus open angle slash, which means that we're closing the tag, plus the tag name again, plus a close tag. And then return that. If we wanted to go nuts and make it unnecessarily long, we could do something like this. Tag is equal to, and don't type this. No, that won't work. Forget it. We don't need to make it unnecessarily long. What I was thinking about is making that as one string, making that as another string, and then adding all those strings together. I don't think we need to do that. Maybe that'll work. Yeah. Let's blip back out of here. Click on the word Python and let's go to lists. Basic Python list problems with no loops. We should have done a few more strings because we didn't get to any that required links, you know, or subscripts, you know, slicing. But let's go to lists. So we use, in lists, we know we use the square brackets to specify a specific element. And we use len to get the length of the list. Okay, so the first problem. Given an array of ints. I like the fact that they use the word array, but the Python term is list. But that's okay. Given a list of ints, return true if 6 is either the first or the last element in the array. Now we know how to do that. We know how to get the first element of the array. What's the position of the first element in the list? What are we going to put between the square braces to get the first element out? 0, yeah. So, and here's our list variable. So if nums 0 is equal to a 6, return a true, capital T. Now let's check the last element. What's the easiest way to get that last element? Yep, we're going to use -1. So if nums -1 is equal to 6, return true. Now, as I've mentioned a couple of times, if you have multiple if statements that perform the same function, you can join them with ORs. So why not reword this so that there's an OR there? So how do I fix the cases where I'm returning nothing? I shouldn't be returning nothing. What should I be returning? False. So yeah, I'm just going to stick a final return false down here. And if I wanted to reword this so it used an OR statement, I would say if nums 0 equals 6 or nums -1 equals 6. Return true. I forgot my colon. There we go. Think we're good on that one? So, this is very similar. It's just got a little bit more if statements going on. Return true if the array is length 1 or more, and if the first element and the last element is 0. So what is this part? Return true if the element is length 1 or more. That's just making sure it's not an empty list. That if you did len, list variable, that it's not equal to 0. I'm going to rule that out, and then I'm going to let you work on the rest of the problem. So if the length of the list, f len nums, is equal to 0, or yeah, I could do it that way, but I'm going to rule the error condition out first. Return false. Now go ahead, and yeah, if I'd made it a more complicated if statement, or used nested, then I could have certainly done what you were saying. Pardon me? No, you're right. There's always more than one way to. Yeah. You could get this down to one line. Absolutely. The reason I did this is so that this part of the logic would be almost exactly the same as the prior part. Okay, so I have this solution, and I want you to figure out here the return true. What is the true clause? The first element and the last element are equal. Sounds like an if statement, and we know how to get the first element and the last element. So if I was going to continue with this solution, once I've ruled out the bad case that it's an empty list, I would just do if nums 0 is equal to nums -1. Return true. Now the way this is worded gives us a clue on how to do it very efficiently in a minimal amount of code. Return true if it's length 1 or more, and the first element and the last element are equal. They're throwing the and in there, which gives us right off the bat. I won't say it's a better way. It's kind of a better way. If the length of nums you could do is greater than 0 or not equal to 0 or whatever, and nums 0 is equal to nums 1. Return, -1. Thank you. Return true, else return false. Or better yet, just make it return all of that. Really? Alrighty, -1. And as always, if you're just returning true or false, then you could just replace the word if with return, and you'd be good. Yeah. So the next one, called make pi, returned an array containing the first 3 digits of pi. Well, how do we make a list? We've made a lot of lists. In this language, we don't use curly braces, so the curly braces are deceptive. What do we use to define our lists in this language? Square. So, pi is, whoopsie. Pi is equal to square brackets 3, 1, 4, and then return that. Or if you wanted to do it in the longest way possible, you could declare an empty array and then add each number to it individually.